Commissioner Miller,
Here.
Commissioner Warren,
Here.
Commissioner Zender,
Here.
Commissioner Henning,
Here.
Commissioner Jarvis.
Having done that, we're going to do our traditional, ask Commissioner Miller to say prayer. And he's consented even though he just had oral surgery. And Commissioner Warren, if you lead us.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us here today. We would like to request that you keep those in Europe, whether it be in Ukraine or the rest of Europe, in your loving hands, as well as everyone else here. I also ask that you look over our deputy that was unfortunately injured in line of duty yesterday. Ensure that he and his family are given the support and love that they need. And we also ask that you today look over us and help us make good and wise decisions for the benefit of all the citizens in the county. In your name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The agenda the board has before you, is there anything to add to that agenda? Take a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve. Support.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Okay, minutes.
Motion. I make a motion to move the minutes.
Any notice of correction? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Going around for a review, see a folder already, mileage sheet, expense sheets, grant applications. And then while you're looking at that, if it needs to be raised, please do that. Other than that, we'll go to department heads or departments for their announcements or news.
Morning, thank you. A while ago, not too long ago, Personnel Committee and the board, you guys authorized the promotion of a supervisor, so I just came before you this morning to announce who that is. We went through our contract, followed that, to ensure the promotion process went according to the way it's supposed to be. Written exam, interviews, and fitness reports, evaluations, if you will, all of that combined together produced a new supervisor for us to go on the midnight shift where I've not had one for some time, as I explained to personnel. So I'm happy to announce Michelle Morrell is our new supervisor. You may know her son. He works in Building and Grounds Department, Nick. So that's his mother, and she will be going to her new shift soon. And I couldn't be happier. The other two candidates did a phenomenal job as well. It was a very tight race by score for all of them. And they all should be very proud of themselves of the effort they put into their promotion. I'd like to have had brought her down here today, but she's actually on duty taking calls right now, so I couldn't bring her with me. So she will be a valuable asset to my supervisory team, and I couldn't be more proud to have her. And that was all I was going to talk about today, but I will mention another thing. I was expecting the sheriff might be here today, and so I'm not going to steal all his thunder. Or step on his toes per se. But anyway, the incident yesterday, I think most people are aware of what happened. I'm going to let the sheriff talk about his end, but from 911's perspective, again, I could not be more proud of my staff and how well they handled that incident. I reviewed everything that we had on it yesterday. Everything went according to plan as the way an incident like that happens, as far as the way we handle that business. Everything was done right, timely, and correctly. And I'm very, very proud of the training kicked in for my staff, and we took care of our officers and all of our people out there yesterday. We brought them home safely, and the job was done correctly. So I couldn't be more proud of them. And I also want to recognize the City of Lapeer Police Department. Chief Dave Frisch did an amazing job, again, supporting us because he called up at a proper time to say he's bringing in additional officers from the city to help us at the county level because we have so many of our county officers out there. We have other incidents out in the county. He's willing to send his officers out to help us. He's done that during the Oxford incident and other ones. The partnership that Dave has with us is amazing, and I greatly appreciate what he's done there, and he continues to support us, so I appreciate that. And the same thing goes with Dryden PD. Chief Sean Peters did the same thing. He brought in an extra officer as well from Dryden to help us backfill anything that we needed. Now, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think we actually sent any city or Dryden officers out to the county to handle any calls because workload was fairly light yesterday, thankfully. But we appreciate the support that they have by providing that to us. They don't necessarily have to. The law enforcement in this county works together very, very well, and that's the way it should be. So, thank you to Dryden and Lapeer City and all of our law enforcement officers. Just want to publicly acknowledge them.
Thank you. Hey, congratulate your new office supervisor.
Thank you.
Since the topic was raised, the sheriff might be a logical next choice. So
Thank you, and thank you. Before I get into mine, I can reiterate more what Jeff just said. Dispatchers were rock stars. I know I use that word all the time because there are so many here, but for any of them, matter of fact, we just did roll call this morning, and we were talking about that. That's just the thing, an officer coming on the radio saying he's been shot multiple times, and for saying in recognition of there that we were just talking about is, for us, we're responding, we're doing something in control of what we're doing. I encourage with our people in dispatch, number one, to get that information and then be staring at a computer screen. 30 seconds seems like 4 hours when you're trying to check status and what's going on with it. So the emotional toll that it takes on the dispatchers is just ungodly. So I appreciate each and every one of you. And then obviously with the departments, I'll touch on it a little bit here at the end, but it's not like a broken record a lot of times when I come up here about how blessed we are in this county. I do have to get back and take off running on multiple things, but I do think, especially because a lot of you reached out to me when I haven't even returned or been able to see half the messages that I've got so far. So I want to say thank you, but I thought it was important to come in and just kind of give you where we're at with it. As you probably saw in the stuff that I did put out, I'm not going to get into any details of the incident itself. As you see, MSP, I did call MSP in to handle this. We'll touch on that here in a second, but the basics that you've seen out there, the suspect had a major CFC felony warrant, CFC first, had been looked for a while by multiple agencies. It was our warrant. And going to this address, they got consent to go in and check. Everybody allowed the homeowner, everybody allowed him in there, or the 3 deputies or 2 deputies and a lieutenant. Let me note that I'm not going to say any names here publicly because these deputies are still in the hospital and I want them home and they're home safe to say that for obvious reasons. I know a lot of people know, well, at least that once they're out of the hospital. But there's full cooperation by the homeowner in looking for the suspect. They took him, or they allowed him to check a pole barn, which is an out building back behind the house. And to be honest with you, there wasn't any red flags with it. They'd been there before, they checked it, the family knew we were looking for them. But the deputies entered the pole barn, and upon searching inside of there was a door off to the side. And as the one deputy opened it to look at the back part of the pole barn, he was ambushed. He never even saw it coming. So he was, I apologize. He was shot 4 times. He was shot through the arm, shot directly through the thigh and shot twice in the chest. Fortunately, the vest stopped the ones to the chest because they would have both been lethal. Our other deputy that was on scene returned fire, killing the suspect. It sounds horrible for me to say this, but I'm so proud of our people. How they acted, their training, what they did. The officer that shot 4 times gets on the radio, puts it out, the information. You guys know I'm a baby when it comes to this stuff. I wear my heart on my sleeve, but I'm so damn proud of what happened yesterday as into how these men and women reacted. And when I say that, I mean the entire county. This could have been so bad, and I don't know whose fate is what, but I thanked God when I got in bed last night because he shouldn't be alive. And I'm thank God for the deputies that were there that ended this threat quickly. So I apologize for the emotion side of it. I think it's, and I said, we've talked, I've been working right through the night and dealing with multiple people and trying to make sure our people are good. Because I think it's kind of like in some of the meetings and debriefings we had through the night, it's kind of like related to Oxford situation. What I mean by that is, unfortunately, I've been involved with, in my other position, I've had multiple friends that have been shot. And when I retired, I never wanted to hear that radio traffic again. But when I say about the Oxford thing is we see it, and it's in Georgia, or it's in Kentucky, or it's in Florida. And obviously it resonates and it hits you hard until it's in your backyard. And for the men and women that are in the department, the dispatchers, the EMS, the fire, our VSU, yesterday is a reality check for what these men and women do every day. And I ultimately want them to use that to when they go tomorrow. They've done these things 1,000 times, and then 1,001 is when this happened. They might do it another 1,000 times, or they might do it twice, and it happens again. So to see the reaction, to see how they handled this, and to see how everyone came together and just did what they were supposed to do. On scene there, people were taking care of things on their own. That's what the family does. Doesn't matter what colored uniform, or if you're driving an ambulance, or you're sitting at 911, or you're driving a patrol car or a fire truck, everybody just jumped in. And I think if you saw the stuff that I put out last night, I'm so glad to live and work in Lapeer County, because I'm honored to wear this uniform and to be associated with any of these men and women that serve on this day, on every day. Both officers, obviously the one officer that was shot multiple times, he was taken to Marlette, and then put in a helicopter and taken to Hurley immediately. I give a ton of kudos to Marlette. Marlette was absolutely fantastic. I could just sit here for hours and tell you the people that did such a phenomenal job yesterday. He is stable. We ultimately had to pick his wife and get his kids out of school and bring them over there. He has family with him. He is stable. He is doing well, by the grace of God. And so we don't know on time frame of how long he'll be in there, but that's the best place for him because he's getting fantastic treatment. The other deputy was not shot, but he has some, he's being kept for observation in the hospital still as of now because of some things from the incident. We have had deputies on scene in their rooms with them 24/7 to take care of the family and what the spouses and kids need, and moving people around, getting food. And that will continue as long as they're in the hospital. Whatever those family members need, we will have a deputy assigned all day. And ultimately, the piece of the reference to state police part. On scene and looking at it, obviously, there's my biggest piece of this is, and it's hard to say that, but as I said, of how proud I am of what they did, it's still involved with us. We have a deputy that shot multiple times. We have a deputy that killed the suspect. and we have other people that are in there, detectives that were in there when this happened. I've told you from the beginning that I'm built on transparency, and that I want, in a situation like this, I want an outside source to come in and review, not unbiased, not emotion. There's no way in hell we should have any part of that with the emotion when we have an officer that's shot like that and what they went through. So ultimately, what we do as a professional organization and how we are built is we bring in somebody from outside with a blind eye, a neutral outlook and a transparent outlook to do the investigation. I called MSP, I called Lieutenant Kish, the post commander here in Lapeer. He was already en route up there. And then ultimately they brought people in from all over the state. Crime Lab was there. I can't thank them enough. The reason I say that, and even when I put out, it's very hard for me in our community because of people, the phone calls I was getting, people that are worried about the deputies, as of multiple people in this room have sent me messages or called. But that's their investigation. And ultimately, details wise, I'm not gonna get in the way of that. They are absolutely fantastic to work with. They're concerned with the deputies, as in that they were okay, and then they do their job as into where we go from there. So when we talk about that, and I know people say it with different things, that's the way it should be. Bring in somebody outside to show, sounds horrible to say, maybe I should even say it publicly, to show how great of an amazing job these guys did in a situation that can be horribly bad. Lastly, I know I talked to Quentin. Quentin was a godsend through this also. And we have started because of this, obviously with family, things like most people in their career, they're here, have never had a situation like this in Lapeer County, thank God. I did speak from the scene as soon as I left the scene to head to Hurley yesterday. I called Dr. Gardner. Dr. Gardner is a police psychologist who has worked with us on multiple things. He was instrumental in when we had the Oakland County incident. He is a police psychologist for Oakland County Sheriff's Department, teaches all over, well, really all over the country. I called him to kind of let him know what had happened and to put us on his radar with it. I was still talking to Dr. Gardner last night after midnight. He's a godsend to us. I'm telling him so that you guys are aware. Obviously, I talked to Jeff. I called him because obviously with the dispatchers, things there. And I appreciate what Lapeer County MS has given us their conference room with the details of Dr. Gardner and obviously our people, and having some in the hospital still. On Monday, we are doing a complete department debrief with all of our family members that were involved that day. I will be, and we'll put this out, and I apologize, I just briefly talked to Quinn that some of the things we were doing. That will be, I say that no disrespect with it is, but that will be internal. That will be our people that are in there with Dr. Gardner, sharing what they went through and what they're going through. I am going to probably about 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m. on Monday, I am going to shut the sheriff's office down because I need the opportunity of all of our people to have that opportunity to talk to Dr. Gardner and to hear the grief and why they're feeling the way that they are. So I will be shutting the office down around 9:30. We're going to be there from 10 through the day, and I want that available to everybody. So that'll be, I know there's no, question with that. I make it also mandatory from here, especially with the 3 that were inside when this happened. And this is something too that I'll talk to Jeff with for the ones that were on the radio. Those deputies and people that were directly involved with it they will be mandatory that they will be sent to Dr. Gardner for one-on-ones. And truthfully, I don't care if they go and sit in there and don't say a word, but they need that opportunity, and that's none of my business how they're feeling. I just want to make sure they're okay. That will all be followed up after this meeting on Monday, and that will be between them and Dr. Gardner. But that is not an option. It will go, unfortunately, in law enforcement, really in all first responders. You go and ask somebody, especially when I came up, when you were struggling with something, you were taught to put it away. And ultimately, if you can walk into that building right now and ask any one of those people, You can ask the dispatchers, you can ask the ambulance, you good? I'm good. Well, they're not. And it becomes that back then, and obviously with military and everything else, it was a weakness to say, yeah, I'm struggling. So in doing this, I don't give them that option. I want to make sure that they're good, that they're okay, and then if we have to take further steps, that's what we do, because we take care of our people. I appreciate the time. I apologize, I do have to leave. Like I said, I can't get really into details, but if there's any questions that you have, I'd be happy to answer what I can.
Any questions?
Do that.
Certainly on behalf of the board, you know that we're proud of our staff and we're proud of you as sheriff. We know you'll do the right thing in this process.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it. And I thanks for listening. Thanks, guys.
Scotty, department heads, departments wish to make comments.
Morning, Commissioners. We'll give you a brief update with what's going on in the front of the court. We're presently working on scale 41 numbers. They're typically due in February, but this year they've been pushed back to May. We did provide some performance measures to administration, so I'll be happy to share those with you. Presently, our caseload is 4,302. Last year, it was 4,369, so we've had a slight reduction in caseload. We have issued bench warrants in the amount of 350. Last year was 198. We conducted 503 referee hearings. Last year it was 500. And we conducted 120 case mediations. Last year was 156. Case mediations has added a new process, so we're still kind of getting an average. But none of those figures seem too surprising considering last year's numbers. Last month I attended a virtual Front of the Court Association conference with front of the courts from all over the state. It was a nice opportunity to see some of the faces, and there's plans to have an in-person one this summer, which will be a nice change of pace. Working on the management issue papers from MGT with respect to the wage study. And yesterday, me and my secretary met with Teresa Spencer and Lori Curtis to discuss the rollout of online register of actions. And that's pretty much where we're at. Any questions that we have to try and answer? Oh, I also want to share that next week will be my son's 1-year birthday. I want to share a little bit of good news. Thank you all very much.
I think we're calming down. Okay. Next.
Morning, Commissioners. I wanted to update you briefly. CMH just went through a branding project with the View Group. Many community members participate in our focus groups and our online surveys. So we're rolling out a new vision statement, a new mission statement, and a new tagline. Our new revised vision statement: Lapeer County Community Mental Health will support and serve the community through a variety of services promoting complete wellness, including mental wellness, always aiming to remove stigma around mental health care. Our new mission statement: Lapeer County Community Mental Health provides stigma-free mental health care to ensure the overall health and wellness of the community. And our new tagline: support and care for complete wellness. We have a new logo that we will be rolling out and some new promotional materials. So there is more to come, but this is the first phase of rolling out our new brands. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other department heads or departments that want to report or announce? Okay, see none. And ask any members of the public that would like to make a comment to come join us. Please, we'd always like if you'll introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Terry Frisch, and I'm here to announce I'm running for County Commissioner representing District 4. I'm a retired executive with 40-plus years of management and budget experience. I want to bring the techniques and the lessons learned that made me successful and use them to serve the citizens of Lapeer County and District 4. I'm asking for your vote on August 2nd. And thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Other public comments?
First of all, I'd like to thank you, Brian, for your questions last week regarding the payment for the CMH employees. There was just a lot of good discussion, and I think discussion comes from those questions. I just want to thank you for asking them, because this last week, 2 weeks, we have been to so many governmental meetings, school board, township, whatever, and what we've found is there's not enough questions asked, even by those who are elected to the board. And sometimes there are no questions asked. A motion is made, support is given, and all of a sudden it's like, they take a vote. And that's not fair to the public. It's not fair to those who have taken their time to be at that meeting. And so just the different candidates that are coming up and saying they're going to run for county commissioner or other things, I would encourage them, please, that is the main thing. If you don't ask questions, we are kept in the dark. And that's tough. And it seems suspicious, it just seems really suspicious, especially when 1 week there's a motion made for a certain item, and there's all kinds of questions on that one, and then they vote no on it. The next week there's the same issue, different person, no discussion, and they vote exactly the opposite. But you have no idea what's going on. So I guess that's my biggest thing. So I thank you for all the questions, because otherwise we don't know as the public. And again, you're here because we trusted you and we voted for you, and and then the other thing is last week when the clerk spoke about the election and the machines, another person who was very concerned about election integrity asked me about, okay, so this time we turned off the imaging. How do we make sure as the public that we do not have that? If they're going to use these machines again, how do we make sure that imaging is not shut off? Because we want that imaging on. This is how we have to do it. And there will be many boots on the ground this year. Many. We will be watching, we will be involved. So I guess that's one thing. I tried to look up those laws, and it's a rabbit hole. I mean, it's like none of those laws are specific, and I will be trying to do more to find out what these laws say. But this last week I had a chance to talk at one meeting, and because I like to talk, but someone had said something to me a couple weeks ago about, the ashes, these things that are burned down to ashes. And I wrote, some will rise from the ashes, and I was talking about children. Some will rise from the ashes, others will be buried in them. And those who started the fire or failed to extinguish it carried the damage done on their shoulders. And we just see so much damage. And I'm very proud of Florida, who has said that they are stopping these, they're discouraging children from getting vaccinated. And I'm very proud of them. Thank you.
Alan Pierce, Hadley Township. Thoughts from up here. I do want to again thank the board for allowing me to also serve the public. And one of the things that I'm going to be following up on with Quentin is all these line items on this coming up millage. It seems as if nobody else is asking questions about where the numbers are coming from. They're just all assuming that they're right. But I want somebody to go through it with me and show me that these numbers are right before I would ever stand in front of the public or you guys and say, I fully support this. At this time, I still do not support it because I don't know where all these numbers are coming from. And they just seem to be odd to me. So that's all I'm gonna say about that today. And then the second thing, at my township meeting, I did bring up that, the west end of Pratt Road is starting to be, almost a gravel road now. They've been out, twice that I know of, that I've physically seen, hot patched the little, cracks and crevices and holes. And within 6, 7, 8 cars passing by, it's right back to where it was. And, they said that the county, because it's a county road, has that projected for 2 years down the line. It will truly be a gravel road by then, if nothing is done pretty soon. It is getting bad. There's a lot of heavy traffic moving from 15 to 24 and vice versa along that area. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. And I'm gonna try to hook up, see when the county maintenance folks, road commission has theirs, and I'm gonna try to go and speak to them also as a concerned person who lives in that area. So, thank you very much.
Truman Mast from Inlet City Township. I just wanted to come up and let you guys know that I too am running for county commissioner. District 5 is where I'm going to be running in. I'm self-employed. I work for myself. I'm a father of 5 children. And I was asked if I would consider it. It took a long time to decide. Finally decided I would. So I just want to let you guys know that I am. Thank you very much.
Any other questions, comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on then to our agenda. Notice of appointments needed. And we've got our mental health ones that are probably the most immediate. And I think we have applications for 3 people on the board who have indicated their interest in continuing. Catherine Bostic, Raylan Voss, and I think there's one more that got.
Harry Vale. Oh, no, that's right, that's wrong.
One more got cut off.
I don't know.
Are there only 3?
I just
It
have
would
those.
be your commissioner.
And
Oh, the commissioner, okay.
who's, I'm sorry, no, Miller and me right now, this is me right now.
Yeah. And there's still one open.
But, I'll make a motion to move Catherine Bossi, Marilyn Glass, myself. That's how we do it.
Okay, and then after that, there's one opening. And I think we have an application from Jerry Webb,
I don't have
who
that.
I understand would qualify in categories, appropriate categories.
His appointment, he would still be compliant.
Okay. So,
Who's open on that third one?
Mr.
Mr.
Stramberg,
Stramberg did not renew.
Wait, he's not, yeah, okay.
and Jerry Webb is the application that we have. Has anybody at this point had him? Jerry Webb
I have not seen that.
has been out.
Did you get that last week, I think it was?
Probably 3 weeks ago.
I will go after that.
Knowing Mr. Webb, I think he would do a good job. Okay, we have a motion and a second for that. Any discussion on the candidates? Okay, see, yes. No,
No, I said.
okay.
Who is the motion maker?
I'm sorry, I should have said, I'll add him if he can. Let's see.
Okay. And Commissioner Ward, you're okay with adding Mr.
Yes,
Webb?
and I realized what was going on, I'm like, it's in a moose, so I didn't interrupt.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Okay. Still one vacant position on senior programs, the Inley City Center. We probably have not heard anything additional on that. Great, then, moving on. Looking at the request, the topic of discussion for community mental health for those retention payments from the Region 10 PHIP.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I guess, address, there's some possible housekeeping issues that arose from this. There was a motion made last year. It was made by Commissioner Schneider, supported by myself. And apparently there was some question if that carried on throughout this year, because a contract was contract from Region 10 was added, the time frame was added for an additional year. Again, I talked to Commissioner Schneider, and it was never the intent of that motion to be anything other than a one-time thing. So for clarification purposes, I would make a motion that we rescind motion 193-21 from June 3rd, 2021.
I'll support that motion.
Okay, there is a motion, a second, and to rescind that motion. Discussion. Director Emmett, reserve some time to respond.
The only concern I have about rescinding that motion is that did authorize payments last year, and rescinding that would require us to withdraw those payments. We wouldn't have authority to make them.
So I'd like to add to that, if we could add to the motion, to rescind that, not to rescind it, but maybe can we do it as an amendment to make it adjustment, because it was a one-time stipend. Everybody was in that same thought pattern based on COVID. Everybody in the whole county understood that. And so I think we should add an amendment to that, that it was for that period of time. This was done in June. The renewal of the contract was done in October after that. So we're on another contract now, but they want to bring this one-time stipend that we've given, and we might have to make amendments to our other stipends that it's this year. The public doesn't want us to make this a continuous thing, and by what he's saying, that would be what this would be doing.
I don't see
So I understand what he's saying. If we rescind it, then we're saying that didn't matter, so that money has to come back. So let's do an amendment to that, saying that this is, and everybody, public and everybody, was under the assumption there was one time to help them during the COVID time. So to make abuse and move this forward would be not be neglect on our part. So I think we should amend that to read that here.
My suggestion would be, if you want to deal with that emotion, that you sunset it September 30th of 2021, which will leave it in place to authorize the payments through that budget year that have been made. I think if you rescind it completely, you eliminate the authority for payments that have already been made. So it would jeopardize some of my auditing issues in terms of having made payments that weren't authorized. Does that make sense to you?
So he's saying in a sense that would mean that it stopped at that period of time. So
The intent of this motion is, if I may, the intent of the motion is to require approval for each and individual prepayment. So if there's a prepaid inpatient healthcare plan payment of $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, the intent, as I'm reading it, the intent is that we need to seek approval every time that money becomes available. Because as the motion reads right now, it's open-ended. It's a motion that all pass-through provisions are fully funded through the community at all times, meaning that this motion would read, money comes in from Region 10, lands in CMH, you don't have to come before this board to ask to distribute it to the employees, the county employees.
That's the way I interpret the motion as it's currently written.
And I think the intent of what I'm hearing is to say that approval needs to be sought per distribution, per plan.
So if I may, if we go ahead with this, the second part of this was going to be a new motion. So if I rescinding of the motion, and then we just act up this, we approve this new motion, that's what it says. That would be the
It would supersede,
current
correct.
motion anyway, which would supersede any past motions.
Correct.
I have to rescind my support for that. So you can make your moves.
Yes.
Yes.
Just withdraw the motion.
Withdraw.
Okay. Withdraw the motion.
Okay, the motion has been withdrawn. The topic is still on the floor.
So then we have a motion that all wage pass-through provisions that are fully funded through community mental health contract with Region 10 prepaid inpatient health plan shall be presented to the Lapeer County Board of Commissions for approval.
This is a separate. You have to get back to the first part, right? We have to correct last year, yeah? No, we don't. Okay.
This motion would supersede that.
Okay.
So in fact, it would be immediate, you're saying,
Yes.
with immediate. Okay. There is a motion, second, discussion.
Could you repeat that motion one more time?
It's right in front of you, sir.
Oh, this is the same one.
That's
It's
the
the same
rescind
motion.
Okay. My only question is, does this mean that when Region 10 distributes any payments to CMH, it's gonna have to be approved with us first? Because if that's the case, and
No.
Laura,
For
no.
wage pass-through.
Well,
I don't know wages.
I get that,
Yeah,
but still,
wage pass-throughs for county employees
yeah.
have to come to this board. All other CMH operations are under the purview of the CMH executive and the CMH board.
So that there's currently no directly paid or subsidized workers at CMH by Region 10? Because here's, hold on. So here's,
Region 10 pays all our,
well, that's what I'm saying. So
all our
here's my
salaries.
question. I get it, the wage pass-through, and maybe I'm just misreading this and I'm getting my legal mind, which I'm not a lawyer, way too
Right.
deep into it, but I'm thinking, well, if wages come from Region 10, it's a Region 10 pass-through, thus everything in Region 10 would have to come through us in order to be finally approved, even for minor wage payments and everything else along those lines. Now, I said I could be diving way too deep into the hole, and maybe Jackie or Quentin can say I'm way out of line, but
Not out of line, but maybe just a recommendation. So I think you're hung up on the word all. So if we're talking about one-time payments, one-offs, not part of regular salary, the difference would be a motion that one-time wage pass-through provisions are fully funded through the community mental health contract with Region 10. They'd be presented to the board. It doesn't affect the salaries week to week, and these are Region 10 one-time payments. So it isolates what's going on right now. It's $1,000 now, $1,000 later. Those have to be approved before the board. One-time payments, not all payments, not all wages, one-time payments.
How about if we say one-time retention payments? perhaps even more specific.
You can say that, but I would just be aware that you don't, I
Not all
would,
one-time payments are necessarily retention.
correct, and not all programs are retention that could result in a one-time payment. We'll call it something different and then it'll still be a
You
payment.
know, the other piece of the puzzle is that, for I think all but a dozen staff, the union contract dictates the wages and the salary schedule and
Regular salary.
So would the motion maker support amending it to one-time pass-through instead of all? In order to just narrow it down, because otherwise, as I said, I see it as every week we have to pass a motion to keep the pass-through coming through on all wages, because technically all their wages do come week by week.
Each future one, we would be doing the one-time thing,
Yeah.
so we can change it then, so he's just saying, make that more sense.
So motion that one-time pass-through provisions are fully funded instead of all wage.
Yeah, and then I would just turn to the chair and say, would that be in the chair, does that make sense as far as implementing motion?
Okay, what is the net, what do you?
I think to be more clear with what you're asking for, I think I would drop Region 10 out of it. I would just say any CMH one-time payments need approval by this board. Because in fact, the CMH board could make a motion to pay CMH employees with, funding at the end of the year that's available. You would still want to have a voice in that. So I don't think the Region 10 is the, and I'm arguing on your side now. But I think to be perfectly clear, any one-time staff payments need approval of this board, period. I think it's that simple is what you're asking.
If we're still hung up about this, there is the possibility of moving the topic to the next committee of whole agenda for discussion.
So you're, just so we don't, because I don't want to necessarily keep throwing this down the way. So a motion, considering this, and please consider this, Brian, that all one-time pass-through provisions that are fully funded through community mental health shall be presented to the Lapeer County Board of Commissioners for approval. Does that sound better? And that addresses,
Yeah, essentially, we can't pay, administration can't pay any CMH county employees without your authorization. Additional payments outside the union contract.
and that would clarify the previous motion made back in June. But also remove the Region 10 thing, so that now it's everything in general, and would eliminate the wage question, and just make sure it's one-time pass-through. So I don't know if Brian would consider that amendment.
So motion that one-time pass-through provisions through community mental health shall be presented to the Lapeer County Board of Commissioners for approval.
So a friendly amendment, would you accept adding in wage pass-throughs to narrow it?
No, we just got rid of that. Because that opens a can of worms. What's a wage pass-through, and is every salary a wage pass-through?
The other one still makes me nervous and so broad.
Right.
What about that?
I would also suggest that if you go back to historical operations, this board has approved all one-time payments to any county employee. I'm not even sure you need
I believe that's
an enabling motion to restate that. I think that's a longstanding policy.
Which I would agree, but the only problem that does bring up is, what, I don't know if you brought up or somebody brought up, being motion 19321
Right.
needs clarification. Because I agree with your assessment.
That is a motion that's outside of what historically has been.
Yeah, so I don't disagree with you, I just, to the point that was brought up, and whoever brought up 19321 makes the point that that's the current precedent, so it needs to be superseded somewhere,
or another.
In my opinion, the simplest thing is to sunset that motion September 30th of 21, which closed out our fiscal year, keeps any payments we made under that motion authorized last year that you in fact approved, and then going forward into fiscal year 22, which is what we're in now.
That's why I said I didn't think this motion should have been moved forward yet until we took care of that. I think we do need to send that in September, so that gets clarified last year. We still haven't clarified that one.
And then, personally, I don't think the new motion is necessary if you sunset that broad motion, because the administration's not gonna make a payment without your authorization.
It'll still be coming through us again, like it's been.
It kind of corrects itself.
We're just trying to correct this because since the thought is it doesn't carry over to this new contract, and it doesn't. So if he's saying give a sunset at the end of last September, October, when the new contract came in, that's a whole different ballgame. Nothing changed how.
Because that motion authorized a one-time payment to staff. It authorized $2 through some of our paraprofessional staff. So it authorized a number of things that were happening under COVID that I would like to at least maintain the integrity of those authorizations through the end of last year.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. What do you want to do with that?
I want to clarify.
We want to talk about the draw temporarily or not?
We can withdraw it.
Okay.
And if administration thinks that it would be more clean to just put a sunset motion, add a sunset clause to that motion, then I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure that it's crystal clear.
And how we do things in the future, we'll look at things differently, but what we're doing here is we're correcting last year. By doing the sunset, we're making that complete. He doesn't have to refund money, because if we did it any other way, he got to refund money. Or otherwise, that still stands, and we got 100 actually. So I think that's changing that motion last year, adding the sunset to September 30th, 2021. Everything that is correct up to that point, we're in a whole new era. And see,
Sorry, go ahead. I'm just, my mind went to labor union contracts.
what we're talking about doing is go back to the original motion and put it, and just, all we're gonna do is amend it to have adding a sunset clause to end September 31st, 2021. That takes care of last year's issue. If we go past that, we're gonna allow that to still stand, and that's not true. Then this year's motion will be completely different when they come to us, what we want to do and vote on that.
If it sunsets it, it closes the books on that motion 193.21.
At that
So it closes it,
I'd say
and then any new request has to be approved by the board. That's the intent.
I think there's 31 days in September, or 30.
So
We got there.
could it just be a clean motion that to clarify the intent of that motion and not go back and amend something from months ago? Would that be clarification of making a clean motion to clarify the intent of motion 193 instead of trying to amend motion 1?
Or we'd have to do that by motion form.
Well, I think technically too, the chairman can also declare intentions of motions as well, and basically make rulings on motions. So
I think in this case, we need something, and then the board.
Okay, well, what would be the recommendation, just so we don't drag this out for another 20 minutes?
I know it's a little bit more work. I would just amend the motion, put the date in, it closes it, and then we can move forward on our new proposals. It's clean, it's in the record, it has a date that closes. What the intent is to close the open-ended fund wage pass-throughs. So put a date on it, it's closed. And then everything after that has to seek approval. So we need an amended motion.
Okay, so motion maker for the motion that we have on the floor was?
It was withdrawn.
Yeah, so now I can make a motion,
Okay.
and I'm gonna use the verbiage he's saying, so we put sunset clause in there for September 30th of 2021.
On that motion of 193-.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a second? Yes. Okay, is there further discussion?
Somebody's gonna write the motion.
I'm sorry, I had to go get to you.
sorry.
She just make sure she gets the verbiage.
She wants the
Verbiage?
We gotta give her the verbiage,
Okay,
not just verbal, whatever, it's gonna be written down.
okay. Are we clear on the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Okay, so now we're back to the topic at hand, which was to consider what to do with the request from CMH for this year's two $1,000 payments for retention purposes.
As the discussion was prior to, we had given the whole county a stipend, $3,000. Do what he's asking. His situation is, he has employees that are outside of that aren't under the county, that didn't get that stipend. So District 10 is wanting to give them, he's using it for that, okay? But then we're taking our county who didn't get it, need to be brought up to what the other employees did. So we brought the county employees up, and now we're gonna give them an additional, based on what he's saying, because District 10's got this extra money, which is taxpayer dollars, to give out more money. And then the other ones still are being neglected in the county. So we're saying that the stipend that they're looking for should be something different than putting it to retention or wages. Maybe something that would benefit the community. Would be a good thing to do. Somehow some program that we could open up somewhere else in the county that would benefit the county wide, not just us. We have so much money right now floating around. The government just freely giving it, get ready to give more. Throughout the night last night, I don't know if you heard, they passed more money. In the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Without even having another opinion. This country is going upside down. So just freely throwing stuff out and not having anything to accomplish for that, and spending taxpayer dollars is appalling. So we need to look at what we could do with that money that District 10's giving you. It could benefit the whole community as a whole. That's the image you want to project. You even said that. So giving it to some employees not gonna solve that problem. And so, well, I would not.
If I don't have employees to run programs, just to give you an example, here's a posting. This is what we're competing against. We have this supervisor of children's services posted. This is posted from a contiguous county. Their rate of pay starting is $35.64 an hour, tops out at $41.40 an hour. Our base pay starts at $27.61 an hour, tops at $34.53 an hour. With our labor market exception that currently applies to this position, we're at $31.36 to $38.28. But they're also putting a $5,000 signing bonus on the table.
Who is that?
Tuscola.
Oh, really?
So we're talking apples to apples here. We're not talking apples to watermelons.
Tennessee.
I was waiting for that.
But right now, we're in the middle of wage studies, so we can bring this county apart. Everybody's understanding, everybody's working together. We can't just pick and choose which ones are gonna benefit better by what you're doing. That's what I see happening. And I believe me, I have a heart to help.
Pardon me?
We just did this in November, we just gave.
I understand. I understand.
$1,000 stipend.
And then back to your
How
statement.
much more do you give?
When you
And how many
look at
times?
the labor market, and that's true across Region 10, it's true across the state of Michigan, we're all competing. There's 15,000 available positions for master's level and above, and we're all competing for them. You know, that's why a county like Tuscola has to be aggressive. That's why we have to be more aggressive. You know, this is the first time I've had waiting lists because I'm down 6 positions. And, you know, when I'm offering $27 an hour and people are offering $35 an hour plus a $5,000 sign-on bonus, it doesn't take rocket science to figure out where they're going. They're not coming to Lapeer.
So we gotta figure that out. I understand where you're going with that, but I'm talking about right now, we're talking about the stipend, to helping these people. But
Right.
the same
So-
question you would have with that, would I
Right.
have to look at the sheriff and say, well, what about them? And what about the?
I agree. What about
these
them?
people? Yeah,
What about
what about the healthcare department? So we have to look at the county as
Right.
a whole. We can't just pick and choose.
And
But in fairness, the sheriff's office and the health department has over time been given various payments from the federal or state government.
And I also know that Region 10 has made available to the AICC program within the Health Department the same opportunity to make payments to staff that work in AICC, because AICC is a part of the SUD network of Region 10. So you're acting for CMH employees and AICC employees. And the reason, again, Region 10 is doing that is we're trying to keep staff in the region.
Do we remember back in 2020, I want to say 2021 is what we did this, but there were certain times, and Jackie can correct me if I'm wrong, I think I remember correctly, in which we gave certain stipends to some departments because they were authorized through different programs from the state or other governments. And our argument was, because I remember, that people said, well, we shouldn't do this because then some of the employees are going to complain they're not going to get it. And I remember us saying, well, if you have an entity that gives you these funds, we're not going to hold it up. And there's that. So that happened before our stipend with several departments, if I recall. What makes that any different than what happened post stipend? Because pre and post stipend, everybody still got 3,000, right? But technically, some departments got more over time during the COVID situation. So they're actually already above, correct?
I thought we caught them up though.
Oh, did we catch them all up? Okay, well, in that case, there's that. But here's what I do want to ask though to Lauren. What programs are currently on a waiting list? Like which programs currently have waiting lists in which we have people in our community right now that cannot access our services because we're missing employees?
Outpatient services, and that's primarily staffed by master's level therapists.
And how many are on the waiting list currently?
I don't know.
Rough estimate?
30 to 35.
30 to 35. Is there anything else?
Well, we shoehorn everybody in.
Yeah.
Outpatient is, are the people that still meet our criteria but have the lowest need for treatment. So we stack all our staff in our programs like ACT, case management, to deal with the persons who need the most support and care to keep them out of their hospitals.
And is Tuscola part of Region 10?
No, Tuscola is not a part of Region 10. They are in.
Oh, they're in the one up at the thumb, right?
They're central state. We call it the tornado region. It goes Bay, Tuscola here on Bay Area Neck, and then down through CEI down into like Monday Hill there.
Are they also receiving, has their region given them additional funds for retention, as far as you know?
I honestly don't know what the other regions are doing.
Okay, and the other reason I ask is because I'm looking at these numbers, and I actually, in preparation for the public safety discussion that we had on increasing the sheriff's pay aren't these, doesn't have this much of a gap that is currently existing with this position. Now, granted, this is a cherry-picked position.
Right.
So there are probably other things that are not nearly, but just something to keep in mind.
I have a nursing position that's posted in Tuscola. With our labor market exception, we're off by a little less than $1 an hour. But again, there's a $5,000 sign-on bonus. But the other part with the labor market exception, and I think it's these discussions that sometimes create that uncertainty for staff, is they feel like you guys can take that at any minute, which you could. So staff, even though that's been a great tool, it's not a good long-term strategy, because when they look at these other opportunities, they say, well, if they take that labor market exception, my base pay goes back to $20.46. It's no longer $24.21. Plus, there's a $5,000 signing bonus. So those are the staff morale things we're up against.
So Tuscola County, did they get all their employees a $3,000 stipend?
I have no idea.
Okay. So when you talk about the 5,000 though, I mean, you know, don't act like we haven't done anything.
Oh, no, I'm not, and I don't mean to say that. I'm saying we have the labor market exception, which has helped tremendously.
In like always, the grass always looks greener on the other side of the
Right.
fence, you know, until you look at the total package, the benefits, you know, and obviously, somebody who lives in this area, you know, not having to drive to Scholar County every day, you know, wear and tear on their vehicle and gas and all that sort of stuff, that's worth money too.
Right.
So,
But, you know, the sign-on bonus is for new staff. You know, I just want to retain the staff I have.
well, and we just did this again, like I say, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we just did a $3,000
Right.
retention, you know, bonus in November. You know,
County funds.
County.
well,
CMA, region 10 funds.
combination of funds, but
Okay,
we did it for every employee.
Right.
Okay, so again, I just don't see where this is the right thing to do. And we asked you last week, what other things can you do with this money? And you never gave us a direct answer. Have you come up with a plan B, so to speak? If this doesn't get approved?
If we don't spend this money on staff retention, we send it back to Region 10. Then it's available to request for any other projects. The chicken egg argument is, I don't have staff. I'm trying to recruit master's level staff to meet my outpatient waiting list. You know, I have to meet the needs of the people standing in line before I start looking at making programs for people that aren't standing in line. That's why that question is very difficult to answer.
Would you, Brian, be opposed, because I actually don't disagree with your argument at all. I don't disagree with any of it. My only problem is, one, from the employee point of view, being an employee in places before, and here's how I picture it in my head, here's my visual picture. There's $2,000 that's sitting over my head right now, and it's supposed to come to me. I'm supposed to get it. No, hold on, let me finish.
You're not entitled.
No, Brian, that's my point, I get that, but to their point, they think they are, because it's coming down from Region 10, which is their top employee, but I agree with your position. So here's my question, would you be opposed?
Let's not forget the CMA board also authorized pay.
Yeah, but anyways,
You don't
hold
even
on,
wanna
wait,
go there,
wait,
Lauren,
Brian.
because the CMH board, I think maybe needs to be reworked quite a bit. And you don't want to go down that argument.
Okay, but
On
Brian,
some of the
would you,
decisions they've made recently,
would you be opposed to, if we reject this, which if we do, would you be opposed to then making an additional motion to say that we will reject as a board policy any additional funds in regards to wages or retention until the final draft of the wage study comes out? Because in that case, we will make sure it's completely fair across the board. We will never step on anyone's toes. It won't just be us picking on CMH. So if money does come down from the state for the health department, for animal control, for anyone else, we will automatically, as a board policy, say no to it. Would you be okay with that motion? Because if you are, then I will support this motion. I will support the option of not taking this up. Because I want to make sure that when we do this, it's completely across the board. If we get any additional funds for wages, they automatically get rejected. Is that fair?
so we get the wage study.
Until the wage study is final.
We're on a holding pattern right now, and then.
Are you okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. Well, if you make that
So-
motion.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
He's asking him to make the motion. No motion saying that.
Okay.
Okay. So about the motion to read.
Yeah, and I can make it too. I just want to make sure, because you're the one pushing this stuff, so.
You make it, I will support it.
I make a motion to reject any additional funds in regards to wages. I don't know what the correct word would be, considered pass-through funds as well.
One-time payments?
One-time payments in regards to wages until final draft of the wage study is approved.
Support.
Okay, discussion on that motion.
What does until mean? Until it comes back, then
Once our wage study is complete, then we can, adjust accordingly. Once we have that information.
as long as we're not being tied to something that we're.
We're not being tied to anything.
But is that implementation? I mean, the study coming back is only the first phase.
But then we can.
Then
make
we
that
have to
decision.
decide if we've got the money and how we're gonna roll out the money to do what the
Can I actually do one more
study
thing?
says.
Can I actually do one more thing? Can I actually take that motion and table it to next week, because I would like further discussion from administration as well as other departments to review that and make their opinions known before we do that. Can I actually change my motion to table that motion until next week? Just, the only reason is because I just thought through my head, I want to make sure, because this is going to affect every department. So I want to make sure the sheriff has a chance to take a look at it, the administration has a chance to look at it, every department has a chance to look at it before we finalize this and put it into codification.
You could rescind that, right?
So there's a motion to table. Is there a second?
But first motion still hasn't taken care of, so he's got either.
Motion
I
to
changed my motion. I changed.
Well, no, you can table a motion on the floor.
Rescind your
He's
support.
tabling them to the next.
Just so administration has time to review it too, to make sure it's not going to step on anyone's toes.
Be appreciated.
That's fine.
Second?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion to table the motion that's on the floor to the next meeting. Any, the whole with
What motion do you
Authority
have?
Act? or-
I don't have a motion.
Okay.
I'll give you, I'll
Thank you.
write it down for you.
With or without Authority Act?
We can give ourselves authority to act, because in that case, I know it's coming up on a couple of deadlines, so I would request for authority to act.
Okay, is the board clear on what we're doing?
I could get an extension.
If necessary. Well, again, even if we decide next meeting and we're still not ready, we can postpone the vote to the next meeting. Okay, so we have a motion to table the motion that's was on the floor to the next meeting. Any further discussion? Or- Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
So I was prepared to give the presentation that Commissioner Schneider had requested, but I think I'll defer that till he's here. Spare you guys.
We appreciate that.
It's coming down.
Put you on fair warning, it's very good to be acting during this presentation.
I actually just wonder, if you could do that maybe next week. Give him a chance to be here.
But one thing I'll say about, the motion before we tabled it was that it's a broad motion. Would lock us into a number of situations where any number of our state or federal partners could put money on the table, and we could not, even if we wanted to, match it without changing that.
Yep, but it's the fairness doctrine. That's the only reason I proposed it.
And we're in the middle of a wage study right now, so.
We need to think this through some more. I still, I guess I would say, aren't there still some cases where we haven't totally matched? I'm thinking of wage additions that have been made
Oh, yeah,
through
there's,
COVID dollars, supplements, whatever they're called.
I can think of one, but yeah.
So we're in rocky territory here, folks.
Right now, we just tabled it till next week.
Yep.
Glad we tabled it.
Okay, so be thinking, and we'll look for more information. Okay, there is then another topic on the table. We've got a contract before us. And reference to MGT Consulting and our wage study. Topic 3, I think we'll let our county administrator introduce that.
I'll get up for this. Well, you gotta fall forward and make your mistake. It was a mistake made, I wanna make it clear. So the board authorized a wage study in the amount not to exceed $100,000. This was in August 12th. So the wage study, this board approved that wage study. And because of the amount, it needed to go into a bid process. And so we received those bids, we opened those bids, and that is what was included in your packet, the 3 bids that we've received, okay? And you'll see of the 3 bids that we chose a company, one that's familiar with our cost allocation plan, MGT Consulting. And that's really what put them above the rest in terms of knowing the county. Because not only does MGT do this work to complete wage studies, but they know our books, they know our financials. So they know exactly what we're capable of and what we can do. So with that, 3 bids were produced as policy is directed. We chose a company based on the approval not to spend over $100,000. We chose a company. It is the lowest bid, but it's not a situation, it's like you get what you pay for. It's not just because they were the lowest bid. After the interviews that we conducted, Jackie, myself, other members of the administration team, we interviewed each and every company. We had a follow-up interview with each and every company, drilling down deeper and deeper. We chose MGT. They were the least expensive, but they were the most knowledgeable of Lapeer County. That's why they received the bid. Once that decision was made to go with MGT, a formal agreement was produced, and Mr. Roy, we didn't check in on how he's doing, but while he was here, he signed that document, that contract. So my mistake, after it was signed, what I should have done that very same week was brought it to the board's attention, said, here is the contract, please enter it into the official record. And so I'd like to do that today. I'd like to enter in that official record, into the official record that it was MGT that we chose. All the bids from the 3 companies are presented with all the numbers, and we can see what they were going to provide and why we chose MGT.
Okay, so we're cleaning up the details.
We're just entering it into the record.
Exactly. There's no decision to be made other than entering into the record, because I think it's good for transparency, and I think it's good for the public record.
Or late approval of the contract. Look at it either one.
But Gary already signed it.
Correct.
It was already approved.
So we approved it, we just said it into the record.
I just prefer it to be in the archive.
I'll support it.
Motion for the draft motion. Is that all right? Draft motion. Okay, we have a motion maker and a second. The clerk has that. Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Thank you. Okay, since there are no other topics, we'll go to motions from committee of the whole. And, sorry, check on Commissioner Warren, how about if you remove those?
Let me get
One page with 2 motions. As in our history, you can move both.
Yes. The whole to March 3rd. I'll make a motion to move motion number 1 and number 2.
Support.
Any discussion of either of those motions?
I just want to, because of clarity, and because of the people in the audience asking, I'm just going to read them real quick what we're moving on, just so they know that, okay?
That's fine. We normally have not the committee of the whole because we discussed them in
We've discussed
open
it.
meeting before. Just go ahead.
Just for, let them know.
And we have 3 pages to make it harder.
And just to clarify in that statement, because it came to us, it's not going to be the first time it's going to come to us. Sometimes we make conversation a week before, and then we move it, and that got clarified. That's why we make those motions, and we just pass them on, because we already had that discussion. So I'm just going to read this real quick, and it's always on the agenda. All we did was just, we already had the full discussion. Today, we're just going to make the motion and move it forward, okay? To complete it. But motion number 1 was supported, motion by, supported by pursuant to motion 5122 of February 24th, 2022, regular board meeting, giving the committee of the whole the authority to act to enter into the official board record the following action taken at the March 3rd meeting of the committee of the whole. Motion by Schneider, supported by Dunder, to approve the canteen service price increase for the senior program meals as described in letter dated March 1st, and further to authorize chair, vice chair to sign said acknowledgement. Motion carried. And motion number 2, it says, motion by Warren, supported by Schneider, to recommend to the full board to approve the purchase not to exceed $45,000 of digital budget book services with the initial set up fee and annual subscription to be paid from Fund 101-258-813.030 for the creation and updates of the county's budget book to be placed on the county website for transparency with the public. Sheriff McKinnon gave a brief update regarding recent department statistics.
That should not be part of that motion.
I'm sorry.
I
Scratch.
apologize.
Okay,
That last statement.
we're gonna strike that last sentence. And that'll be part of my motion, so I'll change my motion. to motion.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Okay, now on to personnel. Commissioner Snyder will not only be doing the, he's not here. Let's see, Commissioner Miller, would you be able to do that?
Sure. I move that the full board authorize the drain commissioner to fill one full-time administration accountant clerk position due to an anticipated retirement effective May 1st, 2022, and any subsequent vacancy should internal promotion occur at no additional cost to county general fund.
Okay, motion, second. Support. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. That's a pretty standard one.
I move the full board to authorize the health department to fill one temporary youth SINAR compliance program position for the AICC division to be fully funded through Region 10 and no additional cost to county general fund.
Motion, second. Support. Okay, would point out that has to do with tobacco, underage tobacco use. Okay, any further discussion?
Actually, I did have a quick question that just popped into my head. Was this the first time we're approving this since the age has been up to 21?
Remind me when the age was up to 21. It was approved last year also and the time before.
Okay,
But
well,
they still-
yeah, I know this is a regular program. I just saw that it just popped in my head because now does that,
They're still using that same age as far as the
Okay.
guidelines are concerned, yeah.
okay, thank you. That's all.
In the past
Good question,
positions, the
but-
people have aged
Good
out,
question,
so-
yeah, but, yeah.
periodically we have to hire somebody who's in the appropriate age group. Further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Okay, motion 3.
I move to recommend to the full board to authorize the county controller to post and fill a full-time chief animal control officer position due to an anticipated retirement effective April 22nd, 2022, as well as any subsequent vacancy should internal promotion occur at no additional cost.
Support. Discussion. Is this a major position in the county? Will be replacing current person. They need to announce that date, so we know that it will go forward. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Okay, we're done now. Art Committee, Commissioner Center.
I move the full board pursuant to the recommendation of the Art Committee and in response to the impacts of COVID-19 public health emergency to accept the quote from Midwest Commercial Door and Hardware for security glass window and configuration in the county administrative office. Not at a cost not to exceed $2,500 to be paid through ARP Fund 281.
Support. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? This is consistent with what has been done elsewhere. It's in the,
Just for the public's information, this is security glass. When you walk into the commission chambers, our office staff that greets you at the door, that's what this is.
one that escaped the other list of sites.
Yes, this was one that originally, this was not wanted, and we felt that if anybody in that office area wanted that security glass, then we would act on it, and we had somebody that had concerns and they wanted it, so that's why we're doing it.
Well, and to that point, this is the only office, I think, in the building that currently does not have security glass, correct?
Correct.
And
Either does or soon will.
yeah, this is really the last one, so it really standardizes it.
Yes, it
I
does.
personally don't like security glass being all over the building. I understand why we can't have one office unsecured, the other one's be secured. So,
Okay, any other discussion? See none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
Second one, I moved to the full board pursuant to recommendation of the ARP committee and in response to the impacts of COVID-19 health emergency to accept a quote from Blue Water Roofing to replace the roof at the county rental building located at 264 Cedar Street at a cost not to exceed $11,500 to be paid through ARP Fund 281.
I support.
Is everybody clear on that motion? We're talking about the rental house right behind the building.
The rental house right back here, the roof's leaking, the tenant moved out. It's a great time to get it done. And
We're gonna rent it. We
Yeah.
gotta do it.
And I want to say something for clarity for the public, because you're hearing us say this, and we did get bids on there, 3 bids. We have committees, and the committees then look over those bids and we decide, and then we bring it to the board so that the board can. And so the board is usually reacting on our recommendation that we felt that we did all the part of due diligence. And that's why we moved these along pretty fast. I just want you to know, when you see that happening, we've already done that part of the questioning. You just didn't always see it in public because we're getting it all together.
when we get done with our meetings here, we go upstairs and we have these other committee meetings. A lot of times, we spend hours going through this stuff, getting them, making sure that everything has 3 bids. Typically, we try to stay within the county, whether it's purchasing equipment or whether it's, having work done. That definitely takes a priority. We try to keep it in the county as much as possible. So I'd say that's why we tend to move through these kind of fast. Believe me, we didn't spend $11,500 without reviewing this thoroughly.
And for clarity, they don't even give us lunch sometimes. I have to bring a snack, this bad boy needs to eat, so, but we do those, and we diligently try to do that, so we apologize to the public when you don't think we're doing that, we don't want to hide nothing, but we're willing to answer your questions.
What about all that chocolate that sometimes?
I told him that it's my snack, you see that?
The Commissioner Zender is referring to the fact that we do have a priority on awarding bids to businesses in the county. If they're close at all, we tend to want to favor our county businesses. Okay, motion 3, we have a motion?
No, we need to vote on 2. We didn't vote on 2 yet, did we?
no, we still gotta do 2.
We still got to vote.
I apologize. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Okay, number 3, I moved the full board pursuant to the recommendation of the ARP committee and in response to the impacts of COVID-19 health emergency to accept the quotes from SureGuard Roofing and Maintenance for the replacement of the following roofs: Pavilion on Sunset Drive, 3,400, County Garage Maintenance Building, $18,963, and County Maintenance Carport, $17,982, to be paid through ARP Fund 281.
Support.
Motion has been made with support. Discussion about these projects. Everybody's clear. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
Finally, the 4th one, I moved to the full board pursuant to the recommendation of the ARP committee and BOC motion 281-21 to accept low quote from Borough Carpet and authorize the replacement of existing at the Rich Building, Health Administration, Environmental Health, and MSU areas in the jury area room in the complex at a cost not to exceed $30,000, which includes removing old pad and carpeting and installing new carpet for the health, safety of the public and staff to be paid from a combination of E-Grams Grant Fund and Fund 281.
I support that.
Remind me, what's E-Grant?
The health department has some grant money available to pay for the areas for the health administration, the EH, with the county, with the ARPA is just going to pay for MSU.
Okay, we've done this carpeting in some other departments, so we're pretty consistent on trying to upgrade. And be concerned about the health and safety with this. Further discussion?
I just want to add one more for clarity for future reference, because I've been in floor covering for 25 years. I've done that business. And sometimes you get into a floor, this bid, we got to exceed a certain amount. But every now and then you get into a place, and especially if it's an old building or something, and they start ripping up that stuff, they found there's some other conditions down there. You may see us come back and amend to that, because that's a condition that wasn't foreseen by anybody prior to. So we do try to do all that, but you can't get everything until sometimes you get into it. Just so you're prepared for any future things. I see this over years. I just let you know that could possibly pop up on this. That's when we'll change. Okay. So, sorry.
Thank you. No, okay. Okay, then all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Okay, moving on, ad hoc committee updates. Do we have any, other than the reminder there is an ARPA meeting to follow? Fiscal or planning budget discussions at this point? No. Okay, we have county motions. I do need a maker for the road commission and the county audit.
I'm gonna make the, he's doing this one here.
Sorry.
We start with the first one, road commission audit court motion for $1,896.77. And also like to move at the same time, the motion for the audit motion to be $3,324,101.27.
The controller's signature.
Controller's signature, that's what it is.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, aye, please. Aye. Those opposed, no. Okay, public time again. We're back to inviting the public if you wish to make any comments to use.
I am glad that we had a healthy discussion again today in reference to the stipend payment. My question as a public person sitting back there listening to all this seems to be, if this region cannot put this money into something that would benefit all in the county, that's the question. But I have a question. Can they remodify who they're giving it to and leave out the county employees that got the stipend last year and give it to the non-county employees that if they are part of it?
That's already happened.
Okay, so they're gonna get.
So the subcontractor.
I didn't hear that part.
Correct. We did that last week. We were talking about that.
The subcontractors through the mental health that we have no control over. So those folks are getting the
Okay, all right, so this is truly just the county, okay,
employees.
that already, okay.
Yes.
Because
That's what.
my understanding was from the back there, not knowing all the intricacies. Good question. Thank you.
Okay, other members of the public? Seeing none, commissioners' reports. start with you.
Sure. I just wanted to first say, as far as one thing I just noticed that maybe we could do better on is with public comment, make sure we don't respond during public comment. But with that being said, what I would like to start doing is if a public comes up to the podium and asks a question, us writing it down, and then during our commissioner times, we can always invite said person back up here to do that. Just because you get to the public comment thing, it's a legal
I
thing.
do
So-
apologize.
No, it's fine. It's just something I noticed. I thought, well, why don't we get a solution where, they make a question, we write down, then we can have them come back up and make it kind of a regular thing. Because the only thing that happens sometimes I've noticed is someone will come up and they'll ask something that won't respond, and someone else will come up and ask something, but we don't respond, and they're like, well, I see you don't care about me, so.
And that's my fault. As board chair, acting chair, hold me accountable when that comes up. Because sometimes I think we're serving the process by clarifying something.
Yeah, which makes sense, because it is kind of frustrating not knowing the rules, coming up and speaking and being like, oh, you're just gonna sit there in silence like a bunch of jerks. But, it's not really the reason to do it. The other thing I just wanted to say is to any of the department heads that are out there or that are listening, if you do have concerns about the upcoming motion, please come to the board, make your opinions known. And that's why I wanted to delay it, one, for administration, and two, to make sure we get full transparency. Because what I did want to happen, what I almost foreseen taking place, is us passing that motion, and then department head B saying, oh, well, CMH really screwed the rest of us, don't you think? It's like, no, they didn't. So that's why I didn't want to happen. I didn't want people blaming CMH or blaming anyone else for this. If that's gonna be our policy, that's gonna be what we're gonna do. Then we need to do it. And I think today's meeting was a perfect example of what Carol said earlier, make sure everything's out in public, even though it's very semantic sometimes, and sometimes very annoying to sit through and listen. There's a reason it's done. Like, for instance, I was thinking when we did the audit motion, what if we only approved $3,324,100, $101.26? To throw the whole process into chaos. Jack, it would, but there's a reason we have to take the time and do those things. So I just want to say thank you to the public for sitting through and listening. I know it can be annoying sometimes, especially when things seem semantic, but there is a reason for the process. And hopefully, next week I won't sound like I have a golf ball in the mouth. So,
Thank you for coming, having had your dental appointment so recently.
Yeah, and speaking of which, just to note for everybody, I will not be here on the week of the 18th. I'm getting my wisdom teeth out, and I will not participate during that week. So that's it. Thank you.
Only thing I have is driving township fire department auxiliary is having a pancake breakfast on April 3rd. Between 8 and noon.
I really want to make it clear. I would love to give all our county employees, more stipends and stuff like that. We have the wage study coming up, working on it. We want to make things fair with everybody. I think if we would have approved for CMH this additional stipend, I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think you have to treat all the departments the same. So I'm certainly not trying to hurt any employees. That's not the purpose of this. And it's not that we don't appreciate their work, that we do. And that's why we gave them the stipend in November. So we're working toward fixing the problem. Thank you.
Commissioner I don't have a lot to say. I just was glad we saw some transparency, but we also have to explain to us why we do things we do. I'm not going to say a whole lot today. I do want to thank all my constituents and the people around me that supported me in running for being on this commissioner board. Try to keep me to stay here, but I have other avenues I'm going to attend, so it's going to be a fun race. I know now that in my area there's going to be 3 running for that, so you might see some strange faces, different faces next year. I'm hoping that they all show up to our meetings, start running ahead of time, because if we get that many new ones, there's gonna be some education going on for the commissioners too when they get on board, so. But other than that, I don't have a lot to add. You all know my feelings about what's happening in this country, and so explaining that and why leaders need to stand up at all levels, and I appreciate it earlier. I've been saying that myself, whether you're in a township, whether you're in a commissioners meeting, you see your state rep, you see your senator, and those that are running, you better ask them where they stand. Because the selection stuff got changed from our legislatures that were good conservatives. But because sometimes we do that, yes, we'll pass this because of that, we do need more questions. And we do need you, because when you come, we appreciate it, that forces us to answer those questions too. So sometimes it's not always what we want, but it's what you're asking for. So thank you for that, and have a great week.
And I guess I did have two comments back to public comment. So I'm trying to follow that rule. One would be to Mr. Pierce. We're always glad to listen to road problems, but you're right, the road commission is the authority to take that to. So glad you're gonna forward that on to them. And to Ms. Wynn, your comment about imaging, hopefully you're gonna raise that with the county clerk, whether it's on or off, or, okay. Y'all. I guess that's the only thing we have talked about, the ARPA to follow. Thank you for everybody coming today. We appreciate your attendance, and we'll see you in a week. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support. Richard.